The attack in Kenya is the first time many have ever heard of the al-Shabaab terrorist group, but they've been on the United States State Department watch list for years. Robin Renee Sanders is a former diplomat in the region of sub-Saharan Africa. She served as U.S. ambassador to Nigeria and the Congo, and we're very glad to have her here on Arise America. Dr. Sanders, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
taking some time. I know this is a very busy time for you. And in truth, many news organizations have been reporting about the activities of al-Shabaab, but the average American may not have heard of this group. Give us a brief history of this organization.
Well, they really came on the scene in 2005. They broke off from a splinter group that was already operating in Somalia, and they formed this group called al-Shabaab, which means the youth. And since that time, they've been involved in low-level conflict for quite some time, but they've really just done a tremendous pivot recently in terms of the last 3 days in their strategy, their military tactics, and their ability to really have an impactful, devastating event like they did 3 days ago in Nairobi. They've changed tremendously.
I want us to talk a little bit about their change in strategy and this escalation in violence. But before I do, what is their goal? What is their reason for being, if you will?
Well, they want an Islamic State in Somalia. And actually, that's even changed a bit as of the last 3 days, because if you note, their spokesperson, Mohammed Raghou, said they actually want an Islamic continent from Cairo to Cape Town. So they're committed to violence to get there. He said he had fighters that were willing to die under any circumstance, and they really want to see an Islamic continent from Cairo to Cape Town.
It is my understanding that al-Shabaab has been losing territory and influence in Somalia. Can you give us an update on how much of Somalia is under their control or influence?
Well, the turning point for them really came in 2011 when the Somali government, along with the Kenyan government, really made an effort to rout them out of Mogadishu and Kismayo in Kenya and in Somalia. In addition, you know that Somalia and Kenya have about a 682-kilometer border, and Kenya has always been worried about the border and the infiltration coming across its border. So they supported the Somalian government to rout them out, and they were really pretty decimated for the last couple of years. But clearly, this is a definite change in their tactics. Clearly, they've had outside help in getting there, and clearly, this is definitely a change that we all need to be paying attention to.
And you made reference to that also in your last answer, and that it's been a change in their tactics. What change have you seen? I mean, obviously, an escalation in violence, and who would you speculate might have cooperated with them on this attack?
Well, one of the things I think is really important is that they have really escalated their asymmetrical warfare, which is very much a military term. Small, agile, mobile units that can blend in up until the point they're ready to attack. In this particular case, I think the key here is to find out how they got as close to the mall as they did without anyone seeing those automatic weapons. Clearly, they cased the place for probably several months, maybe even half a year. With their tactical change, I would argue that they had outside help, probably from Yemen, possibly the groups that are in Yemen, maybe other affiliates of al-Qaeda, possibly fighters that have come out of Iraq and Afghanistan. There's evidence, of course, that we've heard over the last couple of days that foreign fighters were with them. And so that definitely is an indication that not only at the strategic level in terms of planning, but in the tactical level of execution as well.
Talk to me a little bit about their membership. How large are they? How dispersed are they in terms of across other countries and even American participation?
Well, we've had evidence, I think, since the early 2006-07 period of time where at least recruitment in the United States started, particularly in the Minneapolis area. There's a lot of evidence of travel back and forth. There's a lot of indication of training. I would also argue that they've had influence, certainly from al-Qaeda influence in Afghanistan and Iraq as well.
And I read just in some of the notes in preparing for you that you think that perhaps learned from the terrorist attack, the domestic terrorist attack that happened here earlier this year, the Boston Marathon bombing. Why do you make that connection?
The first time I saw what they did in terms of witnesses talking about them changing their clothes, I thought that was quite unique because one of the things that was very useful in the Boston bombing was being able to identify the bombers by their clothes, following it through technology, imaging recognition, and clearly to come in with a change of clothes. You already have in mind that you're going to try to change any ability for technology to target you in imaging recognition because you look differently. The other part is separating the hostages a bit. So it makes it difficult for rescue because you don't know where everyone is. It also makes it difficult for a mass assault by counter-terrorist groups as well, coming in to try to disperse you from your targets. So I think they learned quite a bit from us sharing probably too much information coming out of the results in the investigation of the Boston Marathon
Man,
bombing.
that would be so unfortunate if that's true. Very, very briefly, there have been reports throughout the weekend that this attack was led by a woman, particular woman. Do you have any further information about who she is and what her history is?
Right now, I think that's speculation until we find out a little bit more. We don't know whether she led attacks. We don't know whether she was involved in the attacks. We don't know whether she was even pulled in as a hostage or a defender in any way. All of those things are speculation, but it's quite possible that, there has been evidence for quite some time that women are now being recruited into these groups, and so I would not be surprised if that turns out to be correct.
Dr. Robin Renee Sanders, thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Appreciate
Thank you.
it.